We then go back to Mindwipe, who is still being attacked by bats and ultimately falls down a set of stairs towards a giant door. He thinks he's at a dead end, but is able to open the door. And in front of him is Vector Sigma. He begins setting the bombs, but is promptly confronted by Chrome Dome. Mindwipe tells him that the device can't be stopped once it's activated, revealing the entire plan to his enemy. Now, typically, Andy, when that happens, it's like, well, you fool, you said what you're doing now. We know what direction this is going to go in. Not exactly, everyone. Not exactly. With all 3 bombs now set, Chrome Dome is unable to remove them. Mindwipe leaves, telling him, in the process, don't waste your time. Get out within 30 minutes or you'll die. So long. The other Autobot headmasters arrive at the same location to the news that a bomb has been set. And also should be said that Weird Wolf and Skullcruncher have been tailing them. And they arrive and they're like, where's Mindwipe? And Chrome Dome or someone effectively goes, oh, he took off and ran because the bombs have been set. And they suddenly kind of go, what? And just start running away as quickly as they can, falling over each other, realizing what that's going to mean. Kind of also, Andy, adding into to that sort of panic of, oh, this is genuinely a big bad thing. Like, how are they going to resolve this?
Yeah, because again, it's sort of like I was alluding to at the start of this podcast, like, how many times have you seen the cartoon with or live action movie or whatever where it's like, we've set the bomb, nothing can stop us now, and how many times have they been like, there's no way to disarm this bomb, and then the bomb always gets disarmed with like 1 second left on the clock, so you're just like, yes, okay, we've seen this before, we know how this ends, the bomb gets stopped, blah blah blah. But even at this point it's like, no, this isn't the usual, like, there's somebody kind of calm here to be like, no, we can fix this. This is what we need to do. Everyone is, like, literally in a mass panic. And it's like, oh, I'm sure Rodimus will come along and disarm the bomb or something like that will happen. Or Daniel will trip over his shoelaces and somehow accidentally disarm the bomb. Or, like, I don't know, shove Wheelie into it and, that'll absorb the explosion. I don't know. They'll fix it somehow. I'm sure it'll be fine.
We see that there are 20 minutes left on the clock, and each headmaster is doing all they can to try and detach the bomb from the surface it's attached to, but it simply will not give, leading to the following dialogue exchange. Chrome Dome saying, you guys go, I'll stay until the end. Highbrow retorting with, Chrome Dome, we're not afraid of dying, but think of the commander and the citizens above ground. It takes time to inform and evacuate them. Chrome Dome takes a moment and just says, that's very true. And then the Autobot headmasters leave Vector Sigma. The bombs are still ticking down. And they leave. Back on the surface, amid laser beams just shooting across the landscape, the narrator then says, quote unquote, on the surface they continue to fight, oblivious to the danger of the explosion. We see Sound Blaster then inform Galvatron that the reinforcements won't arrive in time, which Galvatron is not happy about, before the shadowy Zarak appears once again and says, Lord Galvatron, we don't have time. We must evacuate at once. Galvatron responds with, you again? Get lost.
That's a very good response. Like I feel like Zarak in this episode in particular is just like the person that always slides into your Twitter mentions to be like, well, actually, and it's just like, oh, you again? Go away.
I think you'll find.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. Thank God they didn't have Twitter in Lord Zarak's time.
So yeah, he says, you again? Get lost. I don't want to listen to you. To which Zarak then says, you have to listen. The planet will explode in 15 minutes. Galvatron just says, explode in 15 minutes? Don't talk such nonsense. Zarak then just deadpan responds with, it's true. I planted a time bomb in Vector Sigma. Galvatron takes a little moment and just goes, what? In Vector Sigma? Are you serious? Zarak says, we'll be at a disadvantage if the alloy falls into enemy hands. It had to be done to ensure Decepticon victory. Galvatron's response at this point is, "Fool! Who allowed you to do this? I'll stop this." And he starts to run away. And Sound Blaster then tries to stop him and just says, "Wait, Galvatron." But then Galvatron, clearly irate, just stops running for a second and just goes, "Shut up! Your job is to gather intelligence. What have you done?" And then continues running away. And then Sound Blaster to himself just says, "You never learn, Galvatron." I mean, first of all, a little bit harsh on Sound Blaster because he found out about the alloy in the first place. So I take exception to that, Galvatron.
Yeah, I mean, this is a bit of a marital spat, isn't it? We've gone from hand holding to public arguments. It's sad to see. But I do also like how it feels like Zarek is also like taking the role of person who has watched this show before, because he's like, "No, Galvatron, I get what your plan is, but you're gonna mess it up. You're not gonna get the alloy. This is gonna go real badly. So I'm gonna just make sure that doesn't happen. Because look, you're just gonna retreat at the end. So let's just try and hedge our bets."
And so at this point in the episode, as things stand, the Autobot Headmasters are returning to the surface, having not been able to disarm the bombs, and now Galvatron is running to the heart of Cybertron to try and save Cybertron. This is quite the turn, folks, but this is where we're at.
Yeah, which is, again, is like, it's a really enjoyable... I mean, it's almost like the thing that this episode does all the way through. Like I said, right at the top, you've got, like, the Autobots are making, like, the new technology that the Decepticons are trying to steal/stop, which is usually flipped around the other way more often than not. And then, yeah, you have the end of the episode where it's the Autobots retreating and it's Galvatron being like, "I have to save this situation." Also, the more I think about it, do you think that Blur getting stuck in the chair was like the preamble to just like the Autobots are really bad at like pulling things that are stuck to things? Because that's all they tried to do with the time bomb is like, can we just unstick it? Like, is that the kind of like deep symmetry of this episode, that it's just like, no, just as the Autobots couldn't unstick Blur's backside from the chair, so they will also not be able to unstick the time bomb from Vector Sigma.
If Blur being stuck in the chair was somehow meant to be the foreshadowing for where we got to in the story, that is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it could only be better if Cup was like, "Well, it's a good job you're not a bomb," while he's just trying to like yank her out of the chair.
Or it's a good job there's not a time limit.
Yeah.
So with all of that in mind, we then cut to an Autobot base on Cybertron, where Chrome Dome has now informed Fortress of the situation, and in turn, Rodimus is now aware. Emotions are running high that their home is about to be destroyed. Wheelie specifically is just banging his fist down on a computer console. RC is crying in the chest of Rodimus, and Daniel just simply will not accept it. He starts running towards Fortress, who picks him up in both hands. I thought he was going to crush him for a second, but he didn't.
See, I thought he was going to do the funny face thing again. Like, "Daniel, it's all right. Look at my face."
And Fortress, very just matter-of-factly, just tells him, "I don't like it either, Daniel. But it's a fact." Rodimus understands they must evacuate. Elsewhere, we see now that the Decepticon Headmasters have reunited, continuing their escape. And they say, we'll figure out why we were left down there on our own later. But then we see that Galvatron is running underground towards Vector Sigma, and there are 5 minutes left on the clock. He is also saying to himself in the process, "This planet is mine. I won't let anybody blow it up."
Please, Galvatron, please refer to like all of the previous episodes where you tried to blow up Cybertron. But I digress.
Back on the surface, time is now nearly up. Rodimus takes one last look at the surface of Cybertron before boarding the train bots as the Autobots begin to evacuate. Fast forward once again, there's now less than 10 seconds to go. And unaware of the timer, Galvatron arrives at Vector Sigma, and at that moment, the screen goes white as the bomb detonates. We see many flashes of light, crackles of lightning all around the planet of Cybertron. And then an almighty explosion, with debris just flying everywhere through space and whatnot. We can't see anything. And as the dust settles, so to speak, all we see left is maybe at best, Andy, a third, maybe a quarter of Cybertron left. And it's just floating there with so much debris around it. It's mental what we've just seen.
Yeah, and that shot in particular, like, I kind of... It took me a moment to be like, why does this feel so, like, impactful? And then you think back across the entire cartoon continuity, how many episodes start with an establishing shot of Cybertron? Like, how many episodes end with an establishing shot of Cybertron? And you always see it in basically the same state. Like, we have the odd kind of flashback to its golden age where it looks a bit fancier. But, you know what Cybertron looks like, and suddenly to have this obliterated version of it is actually, like, you know, this kind of goes back to the whole, like, this is more impactful in a lot of ways even than the movie, because it's not just like, oh, some these characters died. It's like this entire planet that has been kind of the centerpiece of this entire series, you literally just blew it up, and you followed through on it, and it's an incredibly big deal.